VIP emails, and this one comes from Chris. Have you heard about multiple car manufacturers not installing AM radio? There was an article that said they will not be installing AM and how this will impact conservative talk shows and limit the conservative message. I view this as a way for liberals to silence the conservative movement and message. Please look into it. Thank you. From our VIP, Chris. Chris, we are all over this. It is really important. It's obviously very important to us, but it's important to the conservative movement and honestly to all Americans because there's a big safety component of this. Clay dealt with it himself recently, but I just want to tell you that, I mean, you've got 80 million Americans who depend on AM radio every month. So people are listening to baseball games, monitoring weather, listening to shows like this one. I mean, Clay, when you were driving into Fort Lauderdale last week and you were trying to figure out what's going on with the weather, where were you looking for the real-time updates?
I was hitting on my AM dial trying to figure out what was going on. Because, again, for people who were in South Florida and experienced it, this is the most rain that any part of Florida has gotten in a 24-hour period in the history of any kind of records. And so I was going along fine. And, you know, I rely on Waze and I rely on Google Maps to try to get me around the best way that they can. But the flash floods hit so fast in Fort Lauderdale that Waze and also the Google Maps were completely worthless. I've never been in a situation like that before where, and I think I told you on Friday or last week, it reminded me a little bit of The Office, where Michael Scott's character is being told by Garmin in his car, just keep driving right into the lake, and he drives directly into the lake. That's how rapidly the water came up. I couldn't get to my hotel. And so I legitimately put it on the AM dial and started rotating it around to try to get emergency updates on what was going on. If I hadn't had an AM dial, I would have been screwed.
I mean, AM is still the backbone of the emergency alert system in this country, everybody. There's a reason why, as I said, in all the zombie apocalypse movies, when everything else is gone, when your cell phone doesn't work, when the power's down, when you got to... AM radio is there. It is the baseline mass communication tool. I mean, FEMA and first responders across the country rely heavily on AM radio for public warnings to be delivered in emergencies. That's because AM's reach is unmatched and it's free. So look, you can actually do something to stop this. And obviously this show is asking you to mobilize as much as you can. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress that, look, we need to have AM radio in cars and trucks. Again, mobilize for us, team. Text AM to 52886. Tell your congressman that we need AM radio in cars and trucks. Like I said, we need it for safety. And we need it for free speech. We need it so that there's actually a place where we can continue to do the conversations like we're having here. I mean, think of the decades that what Rush meant for the conservative movement was only possible because of AM radio, right? Rush kept AM radio going in a way that had enormous impact on the country for decades, and it can have impact for decades to come, but can't have these car companies deciding for just frivolous reasons to get rid of it. So I think it's really important, Clay, that we focus in on the safety reasons to have AM and also the free speech reasons to have.
No doubt. And imagine what the reaction would be if something left-wing was getting shut down. They would be up in arms over the fact that it's occurring.
Look at how upset NPR got recently over being labeled, which is just a statement of fact. It is publicly funded media, NPR and PBS, very upset over this, which brings me to Elon. And, you know what's nice about AM radio? It's going out over the radio waves, and you're hearing what's being said here on the show. You know what the problem is with a lot of these digital services and apps, especially the free ones, Google and YouTube and all this stuff? A lot of manipulation going on. This is from that Tucker interview we mentioned. Listen to this preview clip where they talk about, for those who aren't on Twitter, there's the tweets that everyone sees. There's DM, direct message, like a text message via Twitter. Listen to what the government had. Play this.
The degree to which various government agencies had effectively had full access to everything that was going on Twitter blew my mind. I was not aware of that.
Would that include people's DMs?
Yes.
The government had unfettered access effectively. If it wanted it, it could get it easily. Just reach out to their Twitter intermediary, it seems, Clay, and they could see your DMs. Think about what that means for journalists who are contacting sources, for example. People that think they can reach out confidentially via Twitter before Elon wasn't confidential in the least. Big Brother was watching all of it.
Do you just presume, because I do, that somebody has access to every text message that I send?
Yes.
Right? I mean, and I've thought that for a long time about DMs, that they probably have access to them. And that is staggering, the amount of information that theoretically your government is taking of your private information on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it truly is.
Nothing online these days is truly private. That's the reality.